Friends and family, the fitness industry, the exercise industry, it's confusing. If you want to be healthy, fit, look good, live a long life, it's hard to know where to start. It's hard to know where to learn more. Minds on Muscle, Glenn and I, are working hard to give you as much information as possible to give you insight as to how you can help your body. If you're a personal trainer, we're going to talk about the personal training industry. If you're a client or a consumer, someone who wants to be healthy and strong, we're going to talk about that too. We're going to open up our minds and talk about everything we know about muscle. Welcome to the Minds on Muscle podcast, episode 1.
Welcome to Strata. I'm Glenn.
And I'm Brandon. Welcome to the Minds on Muscle podcast.
Welcome to the first episode of the Strata Minds on Muscle podcast. Brandon, I'm excited.
Glenn, I'm pretty excited too. This is an endeavor I've been excited about for a long time.
Yeah, I've had a couple different podcasts myself. I think this is going on my fourth one, and they get better and better. And I was talking to my girlfriend about it yesterday, and I was saying to her, this really feels like the one that I've been looking for. I love doing media like this. I like educating. I like talking about exercise. I like talking about muscles like we're doing, and this just feels like a good fit. I completely agree with you. I am a first-time podcaster. I've been featured on a few podcasts, which has been cool because I think I've told you before, for anyone listening, I wrote for a magazine on drums I had a second business called Drum Mechanic, so I was writing for Modern Drummer, and I did a bunch of drum podcasts. You're the first fitness podcast I was hosted on, and I'm excited about it. I talk about this stuff all day for the last 15 years, so I figure sharing with more people is not a bad thing for either of us to do. It's going to be fun. It is going to be fun. And so I approached you with this idea of doing the podcast. And actually, I think it kind of stemmed out of a podcast that you and I did for my last podcast, the N equals 1. We had done one together, and we were talking about what it would be like to have a podcast for Strata. And if you are listening in the future, it's quarantine time right now. And what a great time to get together with someone that you respect and a colleague and someone who you learn from, and I think we do that with each other, to talk about stuff that interests us, but that we also think the general public and people who exercise and other fitness professionals perhaps should be hearing about. Because, as you had mentioned in the introduction or the prologue to the episode, there is a lot to learn when it comes to exercise and how to maximize the use and function of your human body.
Yeah, you know what, Glenn, I'm happy you said that. And I'm super excited about this. I mean, like you said, COVID-19 sucks. It's a big bummer. If you're in Canada, if you're anywhere, I mean, we were all affected by being locked down and shut down. And now you and we're close to 3 months of having Strata Internal Performance shut down, not being able to see any clients. And that's a bummer, but how amazing that we get this opportunity to have the time put aside where we can work on new projects.
Yeah.
One of the things, I think I explained this to you the other day, but I did a presentation for 35 minutes on post-activation potentiation, which is this weird nervous system thing, to nearly 2,000 people in Portugal 2 weekends ago. And I never would have had that opportunity if it weren't for COVID-19. So I am extremely frustrated by COVID-19, but at the same time, I'm super blessed. I mean, it's been amazing for all these opportunities to pop up. So, Glenn, if you don't mind me taking the lead for a second, Glenn, tell us about yourself. What would the viewers, the listeners rather, be interested in knowing about Glenn Owen? Who are you, and why do you do this fitness thing?
Isn't it, and I know you and I have the same response, isn't it funny when people ask you, where did you come from? What do you do? How did you get to where you are? And you kind of got to look back and be like, oh man, when did this journey start? And I think it started for me like it did for many people, the exercise and fitness journey at least, when I was young, 14 or 15. And I was bullied a little bit in high school. And like a little bit is probably a bit of an understatement. But I was bullied and I didn't like the feeling. And I stumbled upon this exercise thing. And I don't know if you've ever had those moments, but you're shopping Shoppers Drug Mart or a convenience store and you see like Muscle and Fitness magazine or Men's Health, and there are these dudes on the cover and they are jacked and they look good, and you say to yourself, if I look like that, then maybe people wouldn't pick on me. It's like some sort of like physical armor that kind of protects you from your emotional stuff. And so I started getting into working out and exercising. I remember working out at Good Life when I was 17. And I've been doing it ever since. I started professionally with athletes. I thought, like many young fitness and exercise enthusiasts, that I wanted to work with the cream of the crop physically. And so I started doing a internship at a place called Functional, Innovative, and Therapeutics. They're actually still opened in, I believe, Scotiabank Arena, which is down by Downsview Park. They're still working with their athletes. So I started there, and that was my actual first foray into really science-based and evidence-based exercise, because until then I was learning from muscle and fitness. And I learned there about how to read, papers, and how to think a little bit more logically and critically, and learned more about physiological and biological mechanisms rather than, if you have A problem, then do B thing. I learned how to think a little bit more. And I also learned that athletes don't really pay the bills that much. Athletes are either young and they don't have a lot of money, or they're revered and they're used to getting things for free, and they don't necessarily want to shell the money out. There are some, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to paint a blanket statement. So I eventually transitioned a little bit more into general population, and I did aesthetics and whatnot. And then somewhere along the line, I got really bored with fitness, because it was a lot of like, if A, do B, if C, do D, and a lot of people just want to look lean and good looking and all that jazz. And then I stumbled upon a group of people through different organizations, one of them being the Resistance Training Specialist Organization, who I know you know quite well, and at the time an organization called Muscle Activation Techniques. And there's a lot of people just learning to think better about exercise and health, but also trying to help people on a level of individualization, speciality, and a level of individualization, and people who needed a lot of specialization that I wasn't used to. And it really opened my mind as to what's possible if you give people the right exercise and the right dose. You can see really amazing things happen. And so that took me to where I've been for the past couple of years, which is essentially a muscle system specialist through a course that I know you teach, and I've been to a couple courses that you've taught before. And now I'm here working at Strata with people who have some very unique conditions and need some very specialized help with their human body. And it's fascinating to see how these people grow and they get better, and how much their quality of life improves when you figure out how to dose them the right way with the appropriate exercise. And the way I see exercise now compared to when I started when I was 17, I guess almost 17 years ago, it's completely different, and it's a great journey. And so I know that was more than just a couple minutes, but it's been quite a ride. And I'd like to ask you the same question, Brandon. We are now on May 20th, 2020, sitting together in this room, and a lot has changed since you and I met initially in a course way back. Must have been 5 or 6 years ago at this point. How did you get started? Why do you do what you do? I want to know. The people want to know. Please enlighten us.
Well, thank you for asking, my co-host friend. And I love your story. Yeah.
Thank you.
The investment into the Muscle and Fiction magazine. You hear that? Not Muscle and Fitness,
do.
Muscle and Fiction.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom Purvis. Yeah, so Glenn says we're in this room and we're talking about stuff. So really quickly, we're in the business that I opened 5 years ago called Strata Internal Performance, which is a 4,000 square foot private facility where we focus on working with people struggling with injuries, with pains, aches, chronic conditions, some healthy folks, but mostly people that are struggling with something that they're not happy with. And that kind of sets off how I got into this. So just a couple years after you, 15 years ago, I got into this industry. And like I told you on the your last podcast, and for anyone who's heard this story, I'm sorry for repetition, but repetition is great. I got into this because of drums. I'm a musician. I was a professional drummer. I was a session musician, and because I was pretty strong and quick as a young guy, I would do session recording work for punk rock and metal bands when I was 15, 16, 17. Get signed up for shows, do wedding gigs and stuff like that. Entered in some drum solo contests on a forum. And I loved playing drums. So I was a musician first. And in fact, I was actually going to go to school for jazz music at the Humber School of Jazz. And it was actually a family friend who was an accountant that pulled me inside and said, I work with professional drummers as an accountant, and you're not going to be able to afford a house until you're about 60 at this pace. And so I was like, dang. And so that actually changed. That was like a pinnacle moment of my life, and I'll never forget the conversation, being on the back deck. And that had me pursue another option. So I was actually going to go to school for firefighting after that. and I started getting into the gym a bit more. Now, I skipped a step. I actually got into the gym because of drums, because I wanted to get more muscular and look better when I took my shirt off. Because since I was playing these punk rock metal gigs, back in the day, pop punk, Travis Barker, Blink-182, all these guys would have their shirts off playing music, and I was in the opening acts most of the time because I was a fill-in guy for smaller bands, but the closing act dudes would always take their shirts off, and they'd have abs and be shredded, and, and I was jealous because, drummers, you got to look good. You're backstage, not many people are seeing you. You got to look good back there. So I got into working out, tried to look better. So skip ahead, I got into firefighting. Went back to school for biology so I could go to college for firefighting. And I got really into working out. And I really fell in love with this pursuit of bodybuilding, like I think most people do when they get in the fitness industry. So, move forward a couple years from 15 years old to 18 years old. I did a co-op at a gym in town here called Persicini Fitness, cleaning weights, doing consultations and showing tours of the gym. And I actually got so excited about mechanics and exercise science and all the nitty-gritty details of designing exercise that I jumped in. I became a certified personal trainer, CanFit Pro, weekend course, $600, including the course and the test. Learned 14 exercises, and I was certified, right? Be able to work with anybody. And I do mean that to sound a bit facetious because I think that's kind of crazy, right? The fitness industry is just nuts. You can become a certified personal trainer for a very low amount of money, low amount of energy. You need to know 15 exercises, a couple different acronyms, and you're ready to go. So from there, that kind of ignited my pursuit and interest in fitness because not only was I interested in being a personal trainer, but I was interested in really helping people. And Glenn, I said this before so many times, but I was a frustrated, pissed off first-time personal trainer because I was reading all the books. I had physiotherapy books. I had all these different things. I knew what a moment arm was from the resistance training specialist program, and I was trying to help people with injuries, and it just didn't work. I'd roll people, I'd stretch them, and no changes were happening. People were not feeling better, and it frustrated me, and I started realizing that something was missing. And then, like you said, and that's how I got into the resistance training specialist program, and originally, which I don't do anymore, but the muscle activation techniques program, all those were introductory programs that started getting me learning a little bit more about muscles and how muscles perform around joints and potentially how motor performance may influence someone's sensations, pains, disease. And frankly, if you create a really good customized exercise program where people can progress, they can feel so much better. Mm-hmm. So from there, fast track a couple years, how I opened this place and how I've not really participated in those other certifications, but now I'm teaching the muscle system specialist program, is that there's a tremendous amount of research out there in the fitness industry to motor learning and active control mechanisms within the body. And I've really become so passionate about helping people, but also passionate about I have no interest in leading personal trainers, Glenn, but trying to share as much information with personal trainers as possible so that way they can make the best decisions. And fortunately and unfortunately, that puts me in kind of an educator role where I'm teaching a lot. You've been in a couple classes I've taught. I developed a program called Post-Activation Potentiation Preparation. I teach for exercise professional education. So there are kind of three things I'm insanely passionate about within this industry. One, I want personal trainers to get a fair shake. I want personal trainers to be able to make enough money, be considered professionals, and be able to help people with unbiased scientific information, which are all problems within the fitness industry. Two, I really want to help clients because our general population is grossly misled as to which options are the best fitness options to help them out. And then three, and that's the reason why I opened this building, was because the building and Strata Internal Performance, this gym, is a curation of machines, systems, organized machines in different orders, pneumatic machines versus mass-based versus elastomer resistance, to try to make sure that no matter who walks in the door, if they're medically approved for exercise, they can get stronger. Mm-hmm. And so this facility, really, I opened this place, Glenn, not because I was really gung-ho about opening a gym. It was because there needs to be a place, in my opinion, where trainers can grow, people can grow, and we can do different things together. And at the same time, which is a part of this podcast, which I'm super excited about, unbiased learning. Now, we're all biased. Mm-hmm. And I would say you and I are still biased with some level of confirmation bias, but as long as we're trying to challenge it and move forward and we're all going the same way together, like when we did our interview together when you were coming on board here, there's that African proverb, alone I go fast, together we go far. And so that's what I believe Strata is. And that's not entirely my story, but, that's why I do this. I love seeing people move better, and I want everyone to be 150 years old and not be decrepit.
I think those are wonderful aims, and I love that they're not just self-serving, that there's something in there for everyone. And that is, I'm not going to say that's necessarily something that's missing, but I think a lot of people either get way too concerned with being their own self-serving, or they're way too much the other way, where it's all about other people and not enough about themselves. And that's one of the things I actually appreciate about Strata and about what we've created here is we just want everyone to win. And we aren't winning unless our clients are winning. And our clients aren't winning unless we're winning too. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Beautiful, Glenn. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love hearing your story. Now, I'm going to put you on your heels here because I think this will be kind of fun. This is actually something that we're talking about doing for future episodes, but I'm just going to throw it out there now at Glenn and see what he says. Glenn, what is your pick of the week?
Oh, my goodness, the pick of the week. Well, the pick of the week, just for the people at home, so you know, is Brandon and I wanted to add some spice to our podcast. I mean, we wanted this to be a podcast where people can learn. We want to be casual, but we want to be academic. But we also want to throw some other stuff in there to make it more exciting and just, I don't want to say more general, but to have something else to talk about, right? Because muscles are awesome, but we also love talking about other stuff too. You know, we're human. So my pick of the week, I was not prepared for this. My pick of the week is bringing the bed mattress into the family room and lining it up in front of the TV and watching movies. So my girlfriend and I, because of the quarantine, have been stuck at home together, and it's fantastic. I love her to death, as I know you love Katie and your son. And we love going to see movies, and we love going to the movie theater. In the 3 years that we've been dating, we've seen over 50 movies in the movie theater. Like, we go every other week, every third week or so. Sometimes, like, back-to-back days. And we miss that experience. That's kind of one of the things that we both treasure in our relationship. So we decided to start, like, having our own treats, like popcorn and a little bit of chocolate. And we will bring the mattress from our bedroom into the family room, and we set it up, and we lie there under the covers and the pillows, and we watch movies. And we have this thing called the Movie Bowl, where we each put about 20 movies written on little pieces of Post-it note paper, and we fold it up and we put it in this bowl. And every night we shake up the bowl and we pull out a random movie that we're going to watch, and it's either one of hers or one of mine. And so yesterday we watched Face Off with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, one of my picks. It's great. Then evening before we watched 47 Meters Down, which is a Mandy Moore, you know, trapped in a cage with sharks movie. And like, you know, would if we were together choosing a movie, would we have come to those conclusions? No, probably never. But because we each get a fair say and it's random, we get to pick a different movie every night and enjoy it. So Glenn's pick of the week is Movie Bowl with snacks and a mattress in the family room.
You got to love the organic things that you do at home to make up for the craziness that's going on
Right?
with COVID-19.
Agreed. Brandon, same question. Everyone has to know now what your pick of the week is.
Well, I've already got mine, and it is a technology. It's actually a piece of device that we use in recording part of this podcast, and it's going to sound super lame in contrast to your rather personal choice, but
Yes.
mine is the Apple AirPod headphones. And I know this sounds super lame, but Glenn and I and many of personal trainers have been forced to do way more Zoom calls, working with a few clients over Zoom digital forums because we can't see people in person at the moment. And so one thing I was struggling with at the very beginning of this was I was yelling at my iPad. I don't know what it is, but I work with people. I work with 10 hours of people in a day, and my throat is never as sore as after working with 2 people on a Zoom call. These Apple AirPods, if you guys are looking for a headset that actually isolates, cancels out noise, but actually has a really, really clear microphone, I will say this, they're a little bit expensive, but absolutely worth the investment. My dad actually lent me his because I wasn't super sold on them, and I will buy my own. So if you're looking for something to cut out sound, clear microphone to talk to people over your phone or any digital form, Apple AirPods. Not nearly as cool as a mattress movie scenario, though, so pardon me, everybody.
Well, I mean, listen, I think it's a matter of what floats your boat. I mean, headphones for me aren't the thing, but movies definitely are. Brandon, what a great first introduction podcast. I'm really looking forward to recording this with you. I appreciate you sharing your story so far, and I'm looking forward to growing this with you over the next couple years.
Yeah, Glenn, thanks for your story, too. This was a lot of fun, so really appreciate it. Everyone, so this is Brandon and Glenn. We're at a Strata Internal Performance in Newmarket. You want to check us out, go to www.stratainternalperformance.com. This is Minds on Muscle introductory episode, and Glenn, I hope you have a great day. You want to go get some food?
I'm going to go get some food. Let's go, buddy.
Let's go.